Alright, I apologize to all my Cub Cadet subscribers. I've been really busy. I'm still stalled out on that 582 project. I got the front tires, the rims, well the rims are painted, I got the front tires mounted. I'm finishing up painting the rear rims, and then all I'm waiting on is paint. I talked to my buddy about a week ago, and he's still pretty busy himself, so I'm going to stand still on that. Hopefully here I can get that painted pretty soon, but now we're going into summer where it's a busy time and having a time to work on it. That's why I wanted to paint it through the winter, but it is what it is. So I got the 982 in the back that I'm converting to a diesel, and I've talked in previous videos of converting 30mm axles into a cast iron rear end. So that's what we're going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring you guys along. I'm going to do these videos instead of doing one really long video. I'm going to slowly just put out different parts like 1, 2, and 3 as I go on this, because it's going to be paused in between as I'm working for machine work and then as I go through the steps to get this done. So I figured while I'm still waiting on the 582, I need to move forward on this 982 build. And since I got the next couple days off, and it's Ohio, so today was beautiful, and they're talking tomorrow night into the next day possible 5 inches of snow. So that's wonderful, April in Ohio. So, but I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to make the best of it, and I figured if it's, I can't cut grass or, do anything outside really, I'm going to try to get some of these projects done inside. So let me get to it here, what I'm going to do. Tonight the main goal is I'm going to put these up on blocks. I'm going to drain the oil out of both of these. I'm going to pull the rear covers off and take the clips off and try to get the axles out of at least the left side. And I'm going to get the axle tubes off, and tomorrow or the next day, since I have off, I'm going to try to get over to the machine shop and have them start machining this down so I can get this done. Now, before I get started on this, I'm just going to move pretty fast in this video. When I start doing it, I'm not going to show you, take the time, all the nuts and bolts off. I'll show you the importance. I got this big block of wood. I don't remember where we even got this, but it's beveled. If you can get something like this, works really nice. It cradles these rear ends right in there, and it makes it easy to lift them up, to take the bolts off, drain the oil, that kind of thing. One thing I'll point out now, making this into a diesel on the 982 build, the cast iron rear end on the diesel, or on the 982, has a tube, like a dipstick tube for the rear end. Unfortunately, with putting the fuel tank back here in the rear, I'm not going to be able to have that. So I went and pulled this out of a lawnmower scrapyard. This is a plate off like a 147, I think it was. But it's the older 70s hydrostat models, and that plate is going to go right in place of that one when I do it. The only downfall is I'm going to have to check the oil from the rear, which putting a 3-point hitch on here, that's going to make things a little more complicated, but I'm just going to, when I put the 3-point hitch on, measure it up and put a hole to where I can access that through the 3-point hitch. So not a real big deal. Other than that, that's only other modifications other than the axle tubes and the axles. So let me throw the cast iron one up first, and we'll get started. Alright, I got all the bolts broke free. This one, the guy that I bought that 982 from, he said that this one he believed was drained, but it's been leaking back there in the shop, and since I've had it up here in the garage, it's been leaking too. All these covers are different. Some have the original gaskets on them. Some have the RTV. That's what I've been using, the RTV. I usually try to just use a flat punch at first and just see if I can budge them. If not, then I'll go ahead and try to just lightly get behind the gasket material and pull it off. A lot of times you should probably, once you get them broke free, put a couple of these top bolts back in, and that way the whole cover doesn't fall off and flood your pan with oil too much. This pan I have it can accommodate quite a bit of oil, so I should be all right. But if you're using a smaller pan, it could be an issue. But I guess he was wrong, because it's completely full of high-tran. So let me let all this drain out of here good, and then we'll finish pulling the cover off. Alright, everything drained out of there pretty good. Now that most of it's drained out, we'll finish completely removing the cover here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, see, this had a gasket material to put on there. It wasn't original, which that came off. Well, no, it is an original gasket on there. I take that back. It just, from the years of being stuck on there, I don't know if you can see that, it got a little rubbery through the years. But I will say that the original gaskets, the covers do come off easier than like the other one. I imagine that came off that 1864 is not going to be as easy as this, but I'll let this drain out pretty good, and then we'll pop these retainer clips off here. Alright, as the rear end continues just to drip and drain out, I'm going to try to let as much of that oil get out as there I can. So before I can remove these axles, when I pull these clips off in here, I have to remove the brake calipers first. So this is a pretty simple, straightforward procedure here. There's 2 bolts to hold these on, and once I get these off, I'll show you here. And I will say, whoever serviced these the last time did a good job. They never seized them pins pretty good, and that's an important thing to remember on these brakes, is to put some never seize on them bolts so you don't get water and contaminants up there and rust, and they won't hang up. So like I said, it's just 2 bolts, and sleeves come out. That's all there is to it. Once you get the brake calipers off, I try to put everything back together like I had it, put it in a box somewhere, and we'll get these C-clips out and pull the axles out. Alright, I got the brake calipers off. Trying to show you guys here, there's 2 C-clips in here to hold the axles in place. What I like to do is just use a couple flat-bladed screwdrivers, put one on the top, one on the bottom, and gently push and knock them clips out. You knock them clips out, the axles, in theory, should slide out. So let me get the camera set up and go ahead and show you this. Here we go, the clips have popped out. That's how easy they are. And we'll take the axle, and I'll start with the left one. Slide that one out. And slide that one out. Now, them clips, I'll have to be careful and try to find them before they get down underneath there, but I'm not going to take the carrier, the ring gear, none of that out tonight. I was just pretty much focusing on getting the left axle tube of each, and then the next project will be cleaning everything up to get ready to insert the new one. So let me start working on the left axle tube here, and we'll get that removed. Alright, I got the rear end on a cookie sheet, and the cookie sheets work pretty good, because when I go to take this tube off, as I did in previous videos on the other one, there's a lot of excess oil that's left in these axle tubes. So theory behind this is when I take this tube and break it free, all that excess oil should just dump in the cookie sheet and save me a lot of hassle of using oil drying rags to clean things up when I'm done. So let me go ahead and finish breaking these bolts off here and see how easy this tube comes off. Being as old as it is, I don't know, it could be stuck on there pretty good. It's hard to say with this stuff when you tear it down. It just depends on how often it's been used and who's taken it apart in years. Alright, so generally get all the bolts out of it. Rubber mallet, usually just tapping it should do the trick like that. That's the best method. You don't have to worry about screwing the axle tubes up or anything. Even though I'm not using the left axle tube, I'm only using the right. Well, I'm going to use actually both of them, but I'm not reusing these axle tubes, but I'd still like to keep them. It's always good to throw them on the parts shelf, and you never know when you're going to need them. So with that being said, I got the tube off that I need to take in to have machined. So like I said, that's all for this one. I'm going to go ahead and grab the 1864 rear end over there, and we're going to follow the same procedure steps, and let's see what a newer CCC built rear end looks like compared to the old cast iron. Alright, I got all the bolts loosened, and I'm starting to take them out on the 1864's rear end here that houses the 30mm axles. Now, I can already tell by taking these bolts out, this is going to be a lot more difficult for this cover to come off than it was in the 982. There's a bunch of that gasket material around there. That's the one bad thing with gasket material. So this one, instead of leaving a few bolts in the top, I'm just going to try to pry the whole cover off here and see if I can work it free that way. These aluminum rear ends were a little different with the setup on these covers, and they're beveled around the edges, how they go on there. So if you put a sealant on here, as you can see, it really holds a pretty tight bond, but when it comes to removing it, it holds pretty well. So I'm just going to break it free, let most of this oil drain out as I can. And then once most of it drains out, then I'll try to be a little more aggressive. And that way, if the whole cover pops off, it doesn't overtake my oil pan. Alright, a good majority of the oil is drained out of here. I got some leverage behind here. I'm slowly got it broke free now. It's going to take my time and let all this oil slowly drain out here. There you can see the cover on the newer ones, the aluminum housings. You can see all that RTV that's seeped around the sides there when they sealed that on there. Having these edges on here like that just makes it difficult to be able to pry it, that you don't, bend the cover or tear anything up. But I'm not real concerned if I would have hurt this one, because this is just going to go on a parts bin. I might only have one tractor that has an aluminum rear end in it, so I do still want to keep the parts, but I'm not going to use it for the 982 project. So other than that, everything looks very clean. It's going to be very easy to clean this up if you wanted to for anything else. So I'm going to continue to let this oil drain here, and once we get this oil drained, I'm going to go ahead and try to spin this over and get it in position to pull them C-clips so we can pull these axles out. Alright, most of the oil is drained out. This is the one downfall to the two-piece carrier on the newer Cub Cadets compared to the other one. The other carrier on the 982, on the cast iron, you notice to get into them pins, them C-clips, was very easy. Now on these newer ones with the two-piece, there's not a whole lot of room to be able to get in there to knock them off. So the way that this tractor stopped when it sat doesn't give me access. Now when you turn these axles on a hydrostat, nothing happens. It won't move because it's connected to the pump. On a gear drive, you put it first, second, reverse, whatever, you turn it, you can line these up. This is where this comes in handy. You just need to get a big pry bar and just try to pry forward on this to get it to come up slowly, as you can see, to where I can get in position here to get them C-clips. So it doesn't take a whole lot of force, but pry bar definitely works good for this situation. And you got to put it in there to where it won't jam the spider gears in there, because it won't move if you jam them up. But once you get it to a comfortable spot where you can put some light on it and see what you're doing, we'll go ahead and bust these clips out and pull these axles out. Alright guys, same deal as before. You're not going to be able to see it with the lighting in here because it's pretty dark in here, but I got them C-clips lined up the same method as I did before. I'm just going to use 2 screwdrivers and push and hopefully get these broke free and knocked off of here. Alright, once you get the 2 clips knocked off, same thing. I just very gently turn them back and forth, because you definitely want to be able to find them C-clips. I'm going to need them later. And slide the axles out. And there we go. Got some oil dripping over there. Excess. I'm gonna get this one thrown down on a cookie sheet. We'll pull this left tube off here, and then we'll go from there. I will say, if you put these on a cookie sheet and you lay them down, always take this bolt off first before you do. I didn't show you on that one before, but the pan will be in the way, and if you tilt this up, you're going to have a spill. So I figured that out on the last one. I figured I'd share that with you guys. Take this one out first, and then lay it down on the cookie sheet, and we'll get that tube off. And I'm going to try to hurry up here because you can see I'm losing a lot of oil. Alright, so I got the rear end down. I got most of the bolts out of the left axle tube. I had to take a short break and run back to the shop because I had to grab some oil dry because this stuff was getting out of control, and I was out up here. I didn't have any, so I had to run back there and get some. But anyway, the bolts coming out of here with the RTV is definitely, like I said before, more difficult than the gaskets like were found on the original IH ones. But even with that being said, even when I put these tubes in the cast iron rear end, I'm using the RTV. So you shouldn't have to take it apart that often to really matter. I don't know how this tube is going to come off. The last one off pretty easy. I'm going to try the same method. I'm just going to try to hit it with a rubber mallet, not be too aggressive, and we'll see what happens. Alright, didn't need to scrape it at all. Actually, just a few aggressive whacks of the rubber mallet. And I apologize because my camera battery is getting low, so I can't really keep recording. I smacked it 4 or 5 good times with the rubber mallet up closer, and it came right off. So not a big deal, but just to show the rubber mallet does work. Scraping on here, there is going to be a lot more cleaning up on this one than the other one with the RTV, but not a big deal. So I'm going to get this tube cleaned up really well, and the left tube on the 982 rear end cleaned up very well. And hopefully, if not tomorrow, the next day, I'm going to run this into the machine shop and see if you can get this machine down for me. So let me clean some stuff up here, and then we'll do an overview of everything we did. Alright, so that's part one. Removing the rear covers, getting the axles out, and I removed the left axle tubes. Like I said, I didn't remove the right ones only because the left ones were the main focus of tonight. I've been working all day, I've been up long. I just wanted to hurry up and get them tubes removed because I'm hoping to get them in tomorrow or the next day at the machine shop. So this is going to be part one of the video. Stay tuned, check back. Easier way of doing this is I already did a video on this. If you guys haven't checked out the channel, I've been working on a 582, and it had the coarse spline axles and a cast iron rear end, and I took regular fine splines out of aluminum rear end like this and just swapped them in the same tubes and everything. But with this one being a 30 millimeter, this is the newer Cyclops rear ends from, I believe, 1992. I think it was 90 or 92. They started using 30 millimeter. So this is going to be a little different. The tubes are a lot bigger. They're bigger bearings on the ends. Just a stronger way to go. It's probably a little overkill, but you have to machine the tubes like I'm doing. But I've never done one, so the easiest way to be just to put a fine spline in here, but I already did that, so I want to continue on. So there's going to be more parts of this video. The next part will probably be taking the other tubes off, getting the spider gears out. We'll drill out the rivets and the ring gears. We'll swap the ring gears from, you know, a straight to a beveled. And then hopefully when I get that left-hand tube back, we'll bolt this all together and get it all in one piece and have 30 millimeter axles and a cast iron rear end. So I will say, even pulling these around, even messing with them, the cast iron rear end has a lot of advantages of the rear casing. It's just heavier. If you're plowing or using it for anything, there's a weight issue. The cast iron rear end itself is built extremely heavy duty and very well compared to the aluminum that's lighter, doesn't offer the weight, and is a little weaker. But I will say that the axles in the newer ones are extremely strong compared to the axles in the cast iron. So the main part of this build is to do the best of both worlds. I'm going to put the strongest axles the Cub Cadet put in a tractor into the strongest rear end the Cub Cadet put into a tractor, and then we're going to add a diesel and a new drive shaft and all that, and hopefully this thing will be ready to do some plowing here in the next year or so. So if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe. hit that notification bell to check out the new videos that I'm doing. And like I said, it might be a while, guys. I don't know how I'm going to get to this, but hopefully here in the next month or so, I can have this done. As always, I appreciate and thanks for watching.